knowledge. We want to thank, of course, our good friends over at wagertalk.com. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out wagertalk.com, what the hell are you waiting for? There's money to be made, but before there's money, there's got to be information, and nobody's got more free information, better information than wagertalk.com about everything and anything there is to bet on. If you guys haven't had a chance, go check it out. They deal with only the most professional sports handicappers that you can imagine in Vegas are all available on the site there. There's free picks, there's trends, there's everything you need to know to make a smart sports betting decision. You can get that over at wagertalk.com. And we had Ralph Michaels on the show yesterday, the legend himself. We talked about not only last night's game, but we talked about tonight's game in college. And he's got some really interesting insight into a few of the games on Sunday in the NFL. And if you missed that interview, don't worry. It's here. You got it listed. Certainly, those of you that follow us on YouTube, you know exactly where it is. Facebook, you just scroll down. You'll be able to see the interview with Ralph Michaels. Jot it down. Take the information down, because if you're going to be laying any money this weekend, before you do it, definitely check out what he had to say there, because some really cool stuff there, some great information. And we got a lot of trends. We got a lot of games to go over here, and I want you to keep in mind, we've been talking about undefeated teams in the NFL, and we already know we've got the Rams will continue to be undefeated after that game last night. And the Rams are a good team, okay? The Rams are definitely a good team, but it was a bit nauseating. The Jared Goff is the greatest thing since ice cream, and Sean McVay is the smartest football coach that ever walked planet Earth, and the Rams are the best team in the world. Listen, the Rams are definitely a good team, but we're 4 games into the season. And before we start anointing Jared Goff, who I thought, wasn't it a couple of years ago, Jared Goff couldn't play? Wasn't that the case, that Jared Goff was overdrafted? He, was sitting the bench, and there was what a waste. Could have had Carson Wentz. Can't believe you moved up and got this. And how many times did we have to hear the scenario on how bad Jared Goff is? And now, fast forward a couple of years later, he's the greatest thing that ever walked planet Earth. I will say this. Yesterday was a pretty interesting game, because right there you see it, according to Elias Sports, Goff is the first player to throw 400 yards, 5 TDs on 3 days rest in NFL history. So Twitter was just afire last night with the Jared Goff for president quotes, and he's the greatest. Listen, he hasn't won. Last I checked, he hasn't won anything except 4 games this year. 3 of those wins were against teams that high school teams could beat. So let's not get crazy. You also played a Minnesota Vikings defense that was also on 3 days rest, who just got smoked at home by the Buffalo Bills and their rookie quarterback, Josh Allen. So before we start crowning people the greatest that ever walked planet Earth here, could we slow the roll on Jared Goff here a little bit, and let's see what happens when he goes up, against the Chicago Bears defense, or something along those, a quality defense, not what we're hearing about here. That game last night was, you wouldn't look at that game and go, wow, these are 2 really well-rounded, adjusted teams. Their defenses, the Rams, that was what? That was supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. Kirk Cousins lit them up for most of the night. So I wasn't impressed with either one of the defenses. I was impressed with Jared Goff. Don't get me wrong. The play calling is great. The guys are believing. He's got a ton of weapons. The defense is good, although I do think they're very soft in the middle there. And with the injuries that are piling up there with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters in the secondary, they've got some issues. There's no doubt that front is just as ferocious as anybody with Ndamukong Suh and Luke Donald, but Luke Donald, the golfer, no. Aaron Donald there on the front, they're going to go get some. They're going to get some of their, they're going to have a few sandwiches along the way at the buffet there. But, man, let's just slow down before we already give them the Super Bowl trophy and say they're the greatest thing ever. I will say this, though, and I'm wondering if you guys agree with it. What we learned, I think, and what Jared Goff tells us is that the NFL is all about coaching. The NBA is all about stars, okay? Nobody cares. I love Spo. I love Eric Spoelstra, but quite honestly, they're winning championships whether Eric Spoelstra's there or he's not there. The coaches don't make the NBA. Stars make the NBA. But in the NFL, we are witnessing maybe the end of one of the greatest combos ever, that being Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. It may be coming to the end now, but we all know what Bill Belichick was prior to Tom Brady. All right, and he wasn't what he's been with the New England Patriots. And we continue to hear about what a nightmare Jeff Fisher is with quarterbacks. And if it wasn't for Steve McNair, Jeff Fisher would have been one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. I'm kind of shocked he hasn't gotten another shot in the NFL yet, but not a great quarterback guy. We know that. He had guys like Nick Foles and Jared Goff, and they were atrocious. They were made to look like they couldn't play the game. And then we've seen what Nick Foles can do with a coach like Doug Peterson or Chip Kelly. And we're seeing exactly what happens here with Goff when he's got somebody that a coach that understands what's happening here and puts him in a position to be successful. So if anything we can learn from Jared Goff is, yes, an amazing game last night. The kid's got a bright future, but let's slow down on the whole greatest of all time talk. He has a coach, and he's got a coach that understands what he does well. And if the NFL, if you don't have a coach, okay, and you can say what you want to. Aaron Rodgers is fantastic, but Aaron Rodgers has had Mike McCarthy for how long now? And as much as those two may not like each other, the truth is the both of them are probably better off with each other, a necessary evil, than without each other. We know Tom Brady and Bill Belichick don't get along. Ian O'Connor's new book, we just saw how Tom Brady has felt trapped for the last couple of years and, wanted to get out, felt like the walls were closing in on him. And, yeah, congratulations. But without Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, the hell were you going to be? So it works. It absolutely works. But coaches are so much more important in the NFL than they are in NBA, or certainly with in baseball, where managers are now number pushers, they're accountants, where analytics, all the manager does in Major League Baseball now, besides have to deal with the egos in the locker room for 162 games, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way. But really, managers in baseball basically have to write down the lineup that the general managers send down on the phone once the lineup is spit out from the analytics machine that they put all the numbers in, and then, the computer spits out who the lineup is, and that's what managers do these days. The old school guys like Mike Scioscia are on their way out, and everything is now about guys that can, hey, where's the lineup? I don't know. Let me call upstairs and see what's happening. And that's the way it is. And football is still the one sport where coaching, NHL, we see this all the time too. NHL, it's not about coaching, guys. The only sport where you better have the right coach with the right quarterback, with the right ownership, is the NFL. Nothing else matters. The rest, the athletes kind of take care of themselves there